Let me teach you what the taste of ruin is like. It lingers far longer than any sweet wedding cake ever could. My older sister Olivia said that and flicked the hem of my pure white wedding dress with the tip of her toe as if she were handling filth. It was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. My wedding day. But what drifted through the bride's waiting room was anything but celebratory. Are you listening, Megan? In the mirror, my sister's face was decorated with flawless makeup, but deep in her eyes hid a malice she could not conceal. She placed her hand on my shoulder and whispered sweetly into my ear. Your little real estate mogul game ends today. Dad and Mom and all our relatives are going to learn what a liar you really are. Poor Noah. Imagine being forced to marry a fraud. Are you worried about me, Olivia? When I quietly asked that, Olivia snorted. Her laugh was sharp enough to scrape at my nerves. Worried? Don't be ridiculous. I'm looking forward to it. When this ceremony reaches its peak, I'm going to grab the mic and expose the truth. The truth that your claim about owning 12 properties is a massive lie, something my top-tier private investigator uncovered. She flaunted a brown envelope pulled halfway from her clutch bag. The print read, Carter Investigation Agency. Totally worth the money. That investigator is really brilliant. With a triumphant expression, Olivia tilted her champagne glass. The jewelry she wore sparkled as if it had gathered every beam of light in the room. Just one of her rings could probably swallow an average family's annual income. The scent of money always clung to her. Not the scent of sweat-earned money, but something sweeter. Rotten, like a fruit swollen by feeding on other people's desires. Carter Investigation. I've heard of them. I heard they're very skilled. I forced myself to answer in a calm tone. Please, what would you know? Someone like you could never afford professionals of their caliber. According to the report he compiled, your assets are empty. Everything was fabricated, and I'm going to display every bit of that evidence on the projector during my speech. Right there in front of every relative who's watching. A scene from last month's family gathering flashed through my mind. This AI-powered trading system is available only to a select group. My sister had said that, as she proudly showed her tablet screen to our relatives. My aunt and uncle, who were looking for a way to invest their retirement funds, leaned forward eagerly, drawn in by Olivia's sweet promises of 20% annual returns guaranteed and principal protection. She wasn't seeing them as beloved relatives. To her, they were simply her next targets to bankroll her luxurious lifestyle. I see. That certainly sounds like a dramatic performance. Right? You should thank me. I'm giving your boring life the biggest spotlight it will ever get. Pretending to check my hairstyle one last time, Olivia deliberately messed it up before heading toward the door. Well then, dear sister, enjoy the feeling of being a so-called success. Because in less than 2 hours, you'll go back to being nothing more than a pitiful liar. The door closed with a heavy, echoing thud. Silence returned to the room. I slowly exhaled. It wasn't because I had been trembling with fear. I had simply been desperately holding back the laughter bubbling up inside me. Olivia firmly believed that the report from the top-class investigator Carter, sealed inside that brown envelope, was the ticket that would plunge me into hell. But what if the destination of that ticket wasn't the place she intended? Outside the window, fierce winds were blowing. 8 years ago, when I left home, the weather had been just like this. With my family's cold stares and their words, "You're incapable of anything," pressed against my back. Back then, I had truly been powerless. Real estate investment was nothing more than a distant dream. No savings, no credibility, only determination and a burning desire to prove them wrong. But I am no longer that person. In my pocket are 12 keys I've built from scratch, and those keys are the one and only armor strong enough to deflect any malicious words thrown my way. Megan? With a gentle knock, another door opened. It was the other protagonist of today, my fiancé Noah. It wasn't the first time I had seen him in a tuxedo, but he looked more handsome than ever then. In his gentle eyes were love for me and a quiet concern about my sister's reckless behavior. Are you all right? I saw Olivia leaving. Did she say something? Noah took my hand with a worried expression. His warm hand enveloped my chilled fingertips. Yes, the usual. She was very enthusiastic. She said she was going to expose my lies and end my life. Lies, huh? Noah gave a wry smile. She still doesn't believe how many hours you've spent restoring those properties. I wonder what will happen when she learns the truth. Who knows? But I'm sure it'll be a party no one forgets. I stood beside him and slowly left the waiting room. As we reached the doors of the hall, Noah spoke. Are you really prepared? Today might permanently change your relationship with your family? Noah looked at me with a serious gaze. He knew. He knew how troublesome my family was and how much they had dismissed me. And he knew that my sister was preparing to attack me publicly. There's no going back, Noah. I've run away enough. I've hidden enough. Today, everything comes to light. I clenched the hem of my dress. All right, if that's what you've decided, then I'll be your shield until the very end. Noah squeezed my hand tightly. Thank you, Noah. But I may not need a shield. The truth itself should be the strongest weapon. I lowered my veil. My vision became softly blurred by the thin lace overlaying my sight. But beyond it lay a reality that was about to tear apart the false peace my family had been clinging to. This was a wedding, and in a sense, also a funeral. A funeral for my weaker past, and for my sister's arrogant fantasy. The doors opened. The pipe organ began to sound, ringing out like the trumpet of judgment. I stepped, one step, then another, onto the virgin road. In the corner of my vision as I walked, I saw my parents seated in the front row. Daniel, my father, sat with his arms crossed, looking bored, and Emily, my mother, was whispering with Olivia beside her, not even glancing in my direction. Even on the greatest stage of my life, I was nothing more than a part of the background to them. It had been that way for the past 30 years. You have no charm, Megan. The words my father often said resurfaced, blending with the sound of the pipe organ. Our family had been wealthy for generations. My sister Olivia, 3 years older, had been raised as a princess from the moment she was born. Her translucent blonde hair, adorable smile, and natural radiance that drew people to her. Meanwhile, plain and serious me existed only in her shadow. Whatever Olivia wanted, she received. Whatever I wanted was dismissed as unsuitable. On that distorted scale, I eventually gave up trying to balance anything and learned to close off my heart. The fact that someone like me succeeded in real estate began with a rundown apartment I restored using the savings I had scraped together while clinging to the dream that someday I would work with properties. Using the profits and success from that first deal, I bought more and more problematic properties, increasing my assets like a snowball by finding value in buildings everyone else had abandoned. Before I knew it, I had 12 valuable properties and rental income beyond anything my family could imagine. There was a time when I proudly reported that success to them, but their reaction was far colder than anything I had anticipated. Stop lying. You must have borrowed money from some shady people just to show off. Shame on you. That was what my father said, and my mother and Olivia only looked at me with icy eyes. No one believed me, but my success was not an illusion, nor was it a lie. That was when I made up my mind. I no longer needed their approval. I would live my own life. I do. Noah's strong voice pulled me back to reality. As I gazed at his profile while we exchanged vows, my eyes fell on the platinum ring shining on his left hand. When the ring exchange was complete, applause rose throughout the venue. Yet within that applause, I did not miss the discordant notes hidden inside it. Hey, did you hear? That ring must be cheap. The groom's so pitiful, having to go along with Megan's delusions. According to Olivia, she's drowning in debt. The whispers of our relatives, they had not come to celebrate my special day. They had come to witness the ultimate entertainment of watching the liar woman be unmasked. Even after the reception began, my relatives' rude behavior continued. I heard my cousins checking the champagne label and laughing. I've never heard of this brand. The budget must be tight. In reality, it was a rare vintage Noah had purchased directly from a winery, the kind that never appears on the market. But to people who could only judge value by label recognition, it must have looked like nothing more than cheap alcohol. They didn't savor the food. They only searched for flaws, eagerly awaiting the execution show my sister was about to begin. Their disgraceful behavior only strengthened my resolve. The toast at the reception ended, and the meal was served. The moment I cut into the main dish, the roast beef, the lights in the hall dimmed slightly. The host announced cheerfully, "Now, we would like to invite the bride's older sister, Olivia, to give a congratulatory speech to her sister." It had begun. Beside me, Noah squeezed my hand tightly under the table. A spotlight illuminated my sister standing at the microphone stand. She wore a pure white suit and wore a radiant smile. In her hand was that brown envelope. Everyone, thank you so much for gathering today for my sister Megan, and for coming to such a wonderful, and far beyond her means, venue. The room stirred, but my sister paid no mind. In fact, she seemed to enjoy the growing murmurs as she continued. My sister has always been a dreamer, escaping reality by imagining herself as a princess living in a castle. She let out an exaggerated sigh. But even as an adult, it seems her little pretend play never ended, which has deeply worried us as her family, especially her adorable little lie she's been spreading recently about owning 12 properties. Soft laughter trickled from the relatives' seats. My father sat with his arms crossed, looking down. My mother pressed a handkerchief to her mouth. And so, to celebrate my sister's new beginning, I, as her older sister, would like to present her with a gift, something called reality. With theatrical flair, Olivia pulled a stack of documents from the brown envelope. This is the investigation report by the renowned investigator Carter, whom I hired at great personal expense. Now please look at the screen. Here, you will see the true nature of Megan's assets. With a snap of her fingers, the projector's light lit up the massive screen at the front of the venue. All eyes in the hall focused on a single point. Once you see this, you'll understand how empty she really is, and how she has deceived all of you. My sister's triumphant voice rang out. The moment she saw the words projected on the screen, her voice froze in her throat. What appeared was not a certificate proving 0 assets. Next to my photo, the headline displayed in large letters read, Subject of investigation, Megan Montgomery, list of owned properties, total 12. And below that were rows of property photos and addresses. The first apartment building, the third office building, the commercial facility downtown, and finally the building where the Carter Investigation Agency was located. Huh? My sister's foolish voice echoed through the hall via the microphone. What is this? This is wrong. Hey, the slide is wrong. She yelled at the projection operator in panic, but the screen did not change. Instead, the next slide advanced automatically. It showed a graph listing each property's valuation and the combined annual rental income. The numbers were so enormous that everyone in the hall gasped. No, this is a lie. This is nonsense. Carter, where are you? My sister screamed while scanning the room. Her gaze landed on Mr. Carter, standing by the wall. Mr. Carter stepped forward slowly. He slipped his hand out of his pocket and bowed gracefully. Did you call for me, madam? His voice was low and resonant. It is not nonsense. As requested, I investigated Miss Megan's financial status thoroughly and reported it exactly as it is. She is, without a doubt, one of the most prominent property owners in this region. The hall erupted in murmurs. Hey, is all of that real? I know that building. It was recently renovated, the popular one. Megan is the owner? No way. The expressions on my relatives' faces shifted from mockery to shock, and then to confusion. My father stared wide-eyed at the screen, his mouth slightly open. My mother dropped her handkerchief. My sister's face turned bright red with rage. Don't you dare. You used the money I paid you to make these forged documents, didn't you? I'll sue you. This is fraud. Just as she grabbed the microphone stand and shook it, Mr. Carter calmly pulled another envelope from inside his jacket. It was not the brown envelope my sister had been holding, but a black leather file. Fraud, you say? A cold gleam flashed in Mr. Carter's eyes. What a coincidence. The other truth I discovered during my investigation is precisely related to that. What? My sister froze. I set my champagne glass on the table and quietly watched the moment unfold. Another truth? I could see the blood draining from my sister's face. Mr. Carter raised the black file he had retrieved and then turned toward me. Then he held it out to me. Here you are. Thank you, Mr. Carter. I accepted the file and quietly lifted the microphone. Olivia, you're always careless at the very end. My voice echoed across the hall and the murmurs faded like a wave receding. What are you... The top-tier Carter investigation agency you hired. Did you ever check where his office is located? I met her gaze directly as I spoke. That building downtown. That's one of my properties, meaning Mr. Carter is my tenant. Huh? My sister let out a foolish squeak. 2 months ago, I visited that building for a routine inspection as the owner. I recalled that day. When I stepped into the lobby, I saw a familiar flashy red coat. It was you, Olivia. You were so absorbed in admiring yourself in the mirror that you didn't even notice me. My sister tried to speak, but no words came out. When I saw you walking into the Carter Investigation Agency on the 4th floor, everything clicked. The meaning of that eerie smile you wore when I told you about my engagement. I'll give you the grandest celebration on your wedding day. Look forward to it. That's what you said. I gave a small laugh. So after you left, I went to see Mr. Carter. And I told him this. The woman who was just here is my sister. If she hired you to ruin my wedding, please investigate me thoroughly. No way. Mr. Carter is a professional. He said nothing about your request because of confidentiality, but that was enough. There was no reason for you to visit a detective agency except to try to sabotage me. I took one step forward and fixed my eyes on my sister. So I formally requested an investigation from Mr. Carter right then and there. Please investigate my sister, Olivia Montgomery, especially the source of the money funding her extravagant lifestyle. You investigated me? Yes. While you were investigating me, I was investigating you, and what Mr. Carter uncovered is what he called the other truth. At my signal, the projector screen changed. It displayed the decisive evidence Mr. Carter had prepared. On the screen appeared the account records of the investment fund my sister ran, OM Capital. This is the reality. I turned to face all the relatives in the hall. My sister lured you in with promises like 20% annual returns and AI-driven investments. But no investments were ever made. Every dollar you entrusted to her was spent on her luxury trips, designer goods, and on hiring a detective to destroy me today. Screams rose through the hall. No way. My retirement savings. Olivia, what about the dividends? The payments we got every month? That was a Ponzi cycle, I declared coldly. She was taking money from new victims and giving it to the old ones. A textbook Ponzi scheme, and that bicycle completely collapsed last month. Look at the balance. On the screen, the words appeared clearly. Balance $142.50. That's a lie, Olivia screamed. I'm a genius. The market was just bad for a while. You set me up, didn't you? Then the screen displayed not only the account records of her investment fund, OM Capital, but also another list filled with suspiciously familiar company names. That's not all. This transfer record here, DNC Trading, that's Dad's company, isn't it? What? My father, who had been slumped forward in the front row, jerked his head up as if struck. These past few years, you blamed the mysterious decline in company profits on the bad economy, didn't you? But the truth is different. I pointed coldly at the screen. Olivia bribed the company's accounting staff and siphoned off tens of thousands of dollars every month into her personal account under fake expenses. Equipment purchases, consulting fees, you name it. The reason the company's finances were tight was because your beloved daughter was draining it dry. No, that can't be. My father went speechless, pressing a trembling hand to his chest. And the charity for underprivileged children, where she serves as a board member. Nearly 40% of the donations went straight into her pocket. The milk money meant for those children was spent on your jewelry and spa treatments. That's embezzlement in its purest form. Cries of shock burst from around the hall. The fact that she had not only run an investment scam, but also stolen from the family company and even from children's donations sharpened the contempt in everyone's eyes. It's a lie. All of it is fabricated, as if I'd ever exploit Dad's company. My sister shrieked, her face fiery red, and slammed the wineglass onto the floor. With a violent crash, the red liquid splattered across the pure white tablecloth. How dare you? Just because you're miserable, you try to drag me down with you, you ungrateful brat. Who do you think kept you alive all these years? Her eyes were bloodshot, and all traces of rationality were gone. You ruined my life. She shoved the microphone stand aside and lunged at me. She reached out to grab me, but I did not move an inch. Because behind her, they were already closing in. Olivia Montgomery. The heavy doors swung open, and several federal agents and police officers entered the hall. Mr. Carter quietly gestured them forward. He had already notified law enforcement. You are under arrest for securities fraud, embezzlement, and money laundering. An agent twisted my sister's arms behind her back. No, let me go. I'm the victim. My sister set me up. Olivia thrashed wildly, her hair flying as she screamed in disgrace. It wasn't a trap. Without using the microphone, I whispered into her ear. It's the pit you dug for yourself. When you try to build a castle on someone else's misery, it collapses from beneath your feet. The metallic click of the handcuffs echoed sharply. The dry sound was like a bell signaling the end of her vanity-filled life. Megan, help me. As she was dragged away, my sister looked back at me. Her face was a smeared mess of tears and mascara. You have money, don't you? You're the real estate queen, aren't you? Pay my bail, hire me a lawyer. We're family, aren't we? I gripped Noah's hand, which had come to rest beside me, and said coolly, my assets are the result of sweat and hard work. I don't have even 1 cent to spend on a fraud like you. You devil! Her scream disappeared beyond the hall doors. Left behind were my stunned parents and relatives who had fallen into panic upon realizing her bankruptcy. My father collapsed onto his knees, and my mother covered her face with trembling hands. They too had invested everything into Olivia, and lost everything. I looked down at them. The very people who once called me a failure were at my feet. Yet strangely, I felt no sense of superiority. Only a deep relief, as though the heavy chains that had bound me for years had finally snapped. When the patrol car's red lights faded and the investigators finished taking statements, silence finally returned to the hall. It's over. Noah draped his jacket gently over my shoulders. Yes, everything is over. Once I had desperately wanted this family to accept me, to love me, but when I realized that wish would never come true, I chose a different path. And that choice proved to be the right one. Megan, Noah whispered softly, our real life starts now, doesn't it? I held back the tears threatening to spill and nodded with a smile. Yes, we have a home to return to. All 12 of them. We looked at each other and laughed. Our laughter wasn't meant to mock anyone or to put on a facade. It was filled only with pure joy and relief. And the remaining guests had their eyes glued once more to the screen, because it still displayed my 12 properties and their undeniable results. It was real. Someone murmured quietly. That voice spread like ripples, and for the first time, my parents and relatives looked at me as if they finally acknowledged who I truly was. Not as a stain on the family, but as a self-made success who carved her own path through determination and integrity. They understood, painfully well, that the daughter they had dismissed and mocked had been the most honest and the strongest member of the entire family. In the days that followed, the relatives deceived by my sister came to apologize one by one. We're sorry, Megan. We believed everything Olivia said and misunderstood you. To think you had become such an accomplished woman, we truly owe you an apology. They said this while apologizing for their past behavior. I accepted their apologies quietly. They too had been victims of my sister's lies, and they were only now learning the truth. 6 months later, my sister Olivia was sentenced to 15 years in prison. The total damages amounted to several $1,000,000, most of which she had swindled from family members. Even in court, she kept shouting, "It wasn't my fault, the market was bad." This only worsened the judge's impression of her. My parents were forced into bankruptcy. The mansion was auctioned off, and my father's company collapsed under the weight of its ruined reputation. I heard they now live in a small apartment, working day labor jobs to make ends meet. Several letters arrived through lawyers asking for financial assistance, but I shredded them all without opening them. And now, Noah and I are working on renovating an old warehouse that will become our 13th property. My life belongs to me. I don't need anyone's permission or approval. Every brick I've stacked proves exactly who I am.